This episode of the Rainbow Brainskull Hour podcast is brought to you by 10% off. If you go to 10% off and enter in the code 10% off, you'll receive 10% off, 10% off, 10% off. My guest today is the amazing Chris Garcia. What a lovely man. Oh yeah, hit it! Welcome to the Rainbow Brainskull Hour. You're gonna have a good real time today. Every week there's a new guest, so that you'll learn something new. 'Cause that's all that we're here to do. And I just had Keith and the girl in here, and I was afraid of the mic quality being bad for them because they're professional.
Is that the Keith and the Girl podcast?
Yeah.
That's all I know is the title.
Isn't that funny? Everyone's heard of it, but a lot of people don't know it, and I didn't even really know about it, and I became a fan. I love that podcast now. Yeah, it's good. They talk shit. They have all our comic friends on them, and they're like they understand them. I feel like they get comics and they go to shows a lot, and
that's fun.
It's like the East Coast thing. They bust balls, but it's not hacky like just busting balls. They get down with. It's a great podcast, and it's been around since 2005. It predates Marin, predates Rogan, Corolla. I think so. I think Corolla's like 2009, right?
Oh, damn.
2009. That's when I started this whole fucking thing before any of you fucking idiots could have learned how to use a 2x. Everyone who makes fun of Adam Carolla has to talk about a 2x4 because he does construction.
Oh, yeah.
The impression is 2x4. But I don't know. I don't know if anyone does a really good Corolla. Everyone gets like 80% there, but they're missing that last.
It's like the Marin or the Canaan. Everyone's like, hey, wow, wow, wow.
Yeah.
You're like, it kind of sounds like
Adomian's is good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he can do anything.
Yeah, he can. I haven't checked in on Adobian in a while. I should not check in and like, oh, I hope he's okay. I'm his close friend. I don't know him well at all, but I haven't checked in like, oh, what's a new impression that like he's figured out now?
I don't know what his new jams are.
He's got to have some that he's just doing because he has to prepare a lot, I imagine. Like, do you prepare when you do regular stand-up? Mm-hmm. Do you like practice like in front of the mirror or that kind of thing?
No.
But prepare like write down, but you don't prepare like, you don't say it.
Like I had a show in San Francisco. For the big shows, I kind of had like a big show in San Francisco last week. How I prepare is that I put on Tonight's the Night by Neil Young. You know that album?
Yeah.
It's like one of the saddest albums. And I just like putter around and I'll think of my set list. And sometimes I'll just like sing. I'll just be like, Bruce Berry. Like I'll sing along for a second. And then maybe I'll play guitar or even air guitar along. But I just like get in the zone for like an hour and I just like walk around with the album on and do nothing else.
This is before big sets or any set?
Big set.
Big sets?
Yeah.
What do you qualify as a big set? Headlining or?
I was headlining the San Francisco Punchline last week. Ooh. And I was supposed to talk. It was a whole set completely about death. And so, and I had never done that before.
About your father's death?
Yeah, about my father's death and death in general.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, I'm going to get in the zone. And I just feel like sometimes for longer sets, there's just sets that you really care about. Care about all of them, but these ones, I was just like, I need to have a good emotional core to this.
Yeah.
And I just need to feel grounded and feel things. Because you just can't be like, hey, death is kind of wacky. You like really have to sit in it and feel the feelings and just walk around in it.
Yeah, even if it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, even if it's uncomfortable.
Especially if it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Also, this has started, right? I don't know when we're going to actually start the thing, but we like you've done so many podcasts. You've done NPR and Ira Glass and Marin, and you get the whole, it starts kind of naturally. But I feel like I have to tell you that, because sometimes I forget to tell people whether it's already started. Yeah. And I feel that's good for organic conversation, but also not good politeness, because then I might be catching them saying something they don't.
Oh yeah, I was just lost in the conversation already.
Oh, excellent! I felt that already. So, were you always thinking about death, or is that a recent thing as a result of circumstances? Because the whole story with your father is kind of already on air, like people can listen to it on Marin and other places, and I feel like I don't want to revisit like past things of it, but I like to visit where you are now with it.
You made it sound like the whole death was like recorded live or whatever. Like
the actual everything of it.
The moment was captured online. Well, I haven't actually done that many podcasts, but I've talked about my dad on every single one just because it's an interesting subject.
And he's a character. He's such a lovable character. I never met him. I've only seen pictures and your impression of him, but he's a more defined character than I feel that I am. And of course, he's like lived longer and has that. But even aside from that, I feel like he's a more defined.
Oh yeah, just like you could kind of guess how he's going to react to anything at any time. Because he's just his point of view is so strong and stuff. But on This American Life, for that one, I found out I happened to record randomly the first time he forgot who I was, because he had like early onset Alzheimer's, and I just recorded it out of the blue because he was acting weird. We talked about that. And on Marin, we kind of talked about him having Alzheimer's for a little while. And then I did Marin again 2 years ago today, and then talked about just him and his life in general. But since then, I haven't really done that many podcasts, and I haven't really talked about him that much, like in a podcast form.
Awesome. I get first dibs.
You get first dibs.
And this podcast is about, it's about anything, but the central themes that we often revisit are creativity, motivation, and death.
Oh,
capital
awesome.
Words, death, and what people think about it, whether they fear it, a lot of course, afterlife talk, just all of it, whether we get into the just feeling of it and I don't know, or whether it's getting into the woo-woo stuff. It's whatever direction it goes, but...
Oh, cool.
So I was asking, was it something of recent?
He died last February, and so it's been like a little over a year.
But before that, was your mind on death much, or it's a recent thing that's popped
Yeah,
up?
it's been since like he had Alzheimer's for 10 years, and so I'd kind of, it's been looming. And
that's long, right? Normally, the lifespan doesn't even go for 10 years after you have it, right? Or am I wrong with that?
I think the average, I'm not totally scientifically sure about this, but I think it's 10 years. It's the average that you have Alzheimer's disease.
Oh, okay.
So it's like it's not like instant death where you're like, I have 6 months. Sometimes people happen to have, live that long, maybe 6 months or something, or even longer. But 10 years is like, it's a slow and miserable death.
Yeah, everything falls away. Their identity falls away. Their physical, everything falls away. And it's kind of, you see this blurring line between the lively person they once were and are they fully gone? No, they're not fully gone. A little bit of them is still in there, so they're not completely gone. But a lot of what I associated with that human is gone now. Where is it? Is it off somewhere else? Is it still in there, but they can't express it? Is it deep in the subconscious, or what even is that? So
that's exactly it. Like, and they have these momentary glimpses where they, for like a second, they have like a mannerism or say a word that they used to say, and that you like cling on to that minute like so strongly. It's kind of beautiful. But I didn't realize, I've been thinking about this a lot, and when I was living through it, that I didn't know that death would be so beautiful. It's like it kind of like changed my idea of it, just in the way my father died. It wasn't instantaneous. He went from being a little loopy to getting lost every once in a while, to forgetting who I was, to forgetting how to take a crap or like how to eat and how to swallow, and eventually his body just forgot everything. And
was he still prideful with it, where he was trying to do everything himself, or did he give way to like, no, I'm so lost, I'm being helped now?
At the beginning, he would fight it, and he would physically fight it. If you try to like help him or bathe him or something, he would like punch you and like try to bite you and stuff.
Oh, damn.
But all the way to the end, his last day, like I learned about his like will to live because they try to give him like a morphine injection in the mouth, and also like a swaddle, like a sponge with morphine on it, and try to put it in his mouth just to alleviate the pain of not being able to breathe.
That's how they do it? Just a sponge with morphine in the mouth?
I believe so.
That sounds fun.
It seems pretty cool, right? I was like, oh, I've thought about that when they give him like some sort of like, they're giving my dad a whole bunch of different pills. I could just skim one off the top and see what this one does or whatever. But they put this like pen in his mouth, and he like bit it and just like spit it out and just like bit the nurse's hand like through like till it bled. You know, he just like bit it because he was like, I felt like he was like, get that shit out of here, like, which was like his original point of view. Like he was still in there somewhere to the very last day where he's like, fuck this shit.
So
get the fuck out of here. Like,
were they taken aback by that, or they're like, no, we get this all the time?
They're like, this guy. This guy
man.
is
That's like
tough.
our cat Yoshi. He's marked on all the vet papers as very aggressive patient, so that when he goes in, they like know what they're getting into. But I just love that that's on his file, and it's like, your dad is very aggressive patient.
That like he got kicked out when we had to first put him in homes. He actually got kicked out of different ones because he was like too aggressive. Because he was losing his mind. He's a very smart guy, and he didn't know where he was, what was happening, and so he became very aggressive. Like one of the things he did is like wrapped a nurse in a curtain and punched him, you know, just because he was like, what the hell's going on here, you know? But he would, you know, when you try to change his diaper, he'd try to punch you, but it's because the poor guy was confused, you know, and he didn't know where he was or what anything was. But he was a very, like, even through the end and biting people and stuff, very tender person.
Were you ever bit?
No, I think I've been bit and punched, and I've been the whole thing from my dad, but only after he got sick, not as a child. yeah, sweet guy. But I don't know. It was like one of the hardest experiences. Obviously, I didn't have it, and I didn't experience death, but in a sweet way, he devolved into being a baby again. But he was a very sweet baby. Like you got to see my dad like crawl around a bed. Like he was in a room with two different beds, and he would crawl from one bed to another and like investigate a pillow. Like he was seeing the world for the first time. And it sounds sad, and it kind of is, but it was kind of beautiful to see, because he got to see me do that as a baby, you know, and he got to change my diaper, and at an old age I got to change his diaper. And I got to like see him look at the world for the first time, and like he'd fart and he'd laugh because he'd like be confused. He'd like forgot what it was. It was a surprise, and he'd like giggle and stuff. And it's the saddest thing I've ever been through, but I think also the most beautiful.
Yeah, because things, I guess it reminds you of our impermanence, our mortality, how quickly things can shift and roles can be reversed.
Yeah, and we waste all this love and empathy. You know, when someone gets sick and everyone's like, oh my gosh, thoughts and prayers, or all of a sudden they show up to someone who's dying, who's maybe dying for 6 months, or shortly a year, or in the hospital for a day, or for 10 years like my dad, is that we're all technically dying. All the time,
every day.
Since we're born. So why not have that empathy and love for everyone right now?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's tough, man. Like I agree with that, of course, but we fall into these patterns, whether we're in traffic, like just during a minute, like you can change that whole thing. You can have your friend die a week ago. You can have a family member have died a week ago. All of these can happen in the same year. You can keep getting reminded that death is real. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. We worry too much about stupid shit. And then in traffic, like just someone cuts you off, or you miss the turn because of this person. All of a sudden you're just back in yourself screaming at someone, or you get jealous looking at social media, someone else's life. The imaginary version of their life is better than your life. And just, you lose all the gratitude so quickly. And I think it's the main everything we're here for. It's to try to learn that and be in it. And that's what I guess those main yogis do and figure out. Because
it's like, I could think this, and it's a beautiful sentiment to think, but you're right. A car cuts you off, and it's fucking Jenga, bitch. Like everything comes crashing down.
Did you become much more zen afterwards, and after seeing this whole thing unfold, and like not having your father with us anymore? Did it have a big shift, or do you still find yourself getting like, oh, why am I still... I don't see that much anger in you. I think you probably have more sadness than anger. Am I right with that, or am I misdiagnosing it?
I have a little bit of anger, but not really. I'm not like a super angry dude, but I am prone to jealousy and anger, just like you were talking about, because of, you know, social media and comedy and all that stuff. I think we're like built for it. It just seems like it happens, you know. But other than that, I think I'm more sad. I'm not super sad, but I get sad from time to time. It's like a cyclical sadness. And I haven't always been this zen, but I think with age and some therapy and some life experiences, I've just become,
How long have you gone to therapy?
I don't go all the time anymore, but I hit like a rough patch maybe like 10 years ago or something. And I was living in San Francisco, and I was working with a couple friends who are comedians, Emily Heller and Alex Cole. We all worked at the same place. And they were like, they knew I was going through it because I told them. I was like, I don't know what's wrong. And they're both like, hey, you should consider therapy.
You know, Emily's joke about therapy, where if you're considering going to therapy and you're not sure, just tell your friends or the people close to you that you're going to therapy and then see how they react. It's not going to be like, what? You? It's always like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, I don't have to listen to this anymore. Or as much.
I've never been, and I'm finally looking for the things, because I feel like I'm falling in the same patterns too often, and being, I need to grow and actually talk to people about the things.
It's the best adult decision I've ever made in my life. Like, I think you see that you may know the patterns that you have, and you probably do. There might be some you don't know about or something, but the therapist that I went to is really good, and I just like learned the patterns, saw them. Well, they became much more manageable. I became more gentle with myself.
This was the first therapist you found, or you found one that sucked and then another one that sucked? Because I imagine it's going to be like doctors, like comedians, like anything. It's just a human that went through a thing and then has a job, and you have to find the right person that's a match for you. I lucked out. It was the first one. It was the same one that Alex Cole went to, and he was like, I think we got some of the same stuff. I think my guy will be good for you. And he is. He's like... He's the perfect type of... Because I couldn't imagine going to someone that just... excuse me. I couldn't... Oh, hold on. Let me drink some water. I'm hardcore crying right now. I couldn't imagine going to someone that would just listens the whole time and goes, well, it sounds like this. This guy's like a real ball buster, and he's like, oh, listen to your... Oh, gosh, Chris, why do you do this to yourself? And I'm like, what? And he's like, you're doing it again. One time he told me he's like this real, like, East Coast short Italian guy, ball buster. And he's like, oh, why don't we just record this session, and then you never come back again. You send me a check for $100 and I'll just play the same stupid tape every time because you're not learning anything. And he's just like, say stuff like that. And he's like, oh, gosh, I'm going to take a nap if you keep on talking. Oh, that's funny. Some people need that. Yeah. Some people, that might turn them off. Like, I bet he's got negative reviews for some people, but for you, or probably for me even, that's the perfect... Yeah, he's like that and Yoda at the same time, where he's like, he's into like mindfulness and meditation. And back in the day, he was like... you can tell him at some therapists I'd imagine you'd hide stuff from, but like I just tell him like everything, and he'd like even like drug stuff. Not that I never had a drug problem, but I'll be like, oh, I think I'm feeling a little worn out because I ate a bunch of mushrooms last weekend or whatever. And he was like, well, when I moved to San Francisco, they used to call me Captain Trip, and I used to lead mushroom ceremonies through Muir Woods, and I'm like, whoa, cool. Who is this guy? But he's just like a down cool dude. And I went to San Francisco for those shows last week, and I was like, I'm going to hit him up and talk to him. And I went to him, and he's like, still remembered all the stuff. Sometimes it's years between sessions, but just always very helpful to check in and realize. I was like, I'm feeling a little bummed. And he's like, well, you're prone to it. For you, it's very cyclical. Like, sometimes you're high, sometimes you're low, and when you're in your lows, you just have to know it. And like hunker down and just like be in there and just don't do anything too crazy about it, And I'm like, oh, you're right. I should just take a step back and kind of chill. And now I'm just a little melancholy right now and work with it. Yeah, like we get used to feeling like we need euphoria or happiness all the time, rather than thinking of it as like top shelf liquor, and then not killing yourself is like the well whiskey stuff. It's like, no, you don't get the top shelf stuff today. You only get this well. And yeah, it's really important to not kill yourself, I think. And I think there's way more angles that can still be brought up in, because there's it's like, call someone today, like call the suicide hotline. I feel like a lot of people won't still, even after that, because it still happens all the time. And we often think it might be because of money or something, but you see it with, unless they're huge conspiracies, Chris Cornell and the Linkin Park guy had all the money and love and everything they thought they needed, and they still did it. So if there's a little circus
something in the
your
water
head,
at Woodstock 99, and it's slowly working its way around every performer. I don't know if have you heard this conspiracy?
No,
it's
were
on
they
Reddit.
At Woodstock, both of them?
They're both
Not
at
real
Woodstock,
Woodstock
99.
Yeah.
And no, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Oh, really? Oh, man, you had me. I love those. I love the Pixar theory where it's all in the same universe, and it has time travel, and
I don't know that one.
Oh, it's a cool one. There's I don't even think the developers at Pixar know that they're doing it, or producers, or whatever the title is, the people that make those Pixar movies. And I know it's thousands of people, but the main fucking dudes that do it. There's way too many coincidences and hidden things, but also we are these monkeys that like to tell stories and find patterns and stuff. So it's both of them. I'm like Ryan Singer. I think it's more fun to believe, and it's funner to go down the rabbit hole, as long as you keep one foot in, like, no, I know it's just a story I'm telling myself. I know that it might not be real, whether it's just chakra, horoscope, astrology, astral plane stuff, or even quantum physics, string theory stuff. Like, science has this history of being blindsided and thinking that we've got 95% of the picture and only 5% of the picture is left, and we should have it within the next 10 years, and it just gets turned on its head. Like, yeah, all that shit you were doing was wrong. Do you ever think, like, I don't think this is too much of a tangent, but just the way that comedy doesn't age well, science doesn't age well, music does age well. Music kind of, if it's good, it stays around forever.
Yeah, like there's classics.
Yeah,
so,
the
like,
powdered wig guys.
Undeniably, this like Fur-Elise or whatever is a banger forever or something.
And that's all anyone can really do on it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
but
I took
even like Nas used it, whatever, a couple years ago.
Like who?
Nas.
Oh, he used it, really?
Yeah, he used it as I mean, it's kind of corny, because Nas isn't the best at using samples, but it's still there. Like,
he's not the best at using samples. What is he good at then? I don't know him that well.
He's a great rapper and a great lyricist, and I really love him. But
it's
like,
so
sometimes you're like, why are you using this Annie Lennox song in the background or something? You're like, it's not the greatest.
Yeah, if you're not good at making music, at least be good at finding music to steal and loop a short section of, which I'm from that pretentious school of, oh no, you're good.
No.
I'm from the pretentious school of, I don't believe, I'm sure DJs can impress me, but I'm still that stubborn minded of like, no, that's not the same as what Jimi Hendrix did, or what.
Oh yeah. Just collaging things together isn't the same.
Anyone can do that. And it shouldn't be an exclusionary thing too. I think everyone should. Wasn't it in one of those controversial Kanye tweets recently, like that, like, don't try to be original all the time. Like, it's okay to grab stuff other people have done and add to it and build. So yeah, I'm on board with that too. But
have you heard that Dissect podcast?
No, what's that?
It's this podcast. There's this, I don't know if he's like a professional, like a musicologist or what he is, but there's this guy who will, so far he's done 2 seasons of a podcast, and each season he'll explore one album, and he'll do like 10 or 12 episodes on one of them.
Jeez.
And he did Kanye. The second season was about Kanye, and it's pretty cool. Like, it's actually like the way he goes into it, and he talks about it, and he talks about Kanye. He knows his whole history, but then he'll go into like everything he sampled on certain songs, and he'll be like, but then he'll get down to the music. He's like, this is like Eric Satie's blah 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 blah, and he'll just get like really into the weeds. And it might make you appreciate patching a song together a little more, the way he talks about it.
Right on.
It did for me. And I was like, oh, it's a good one.
Yeah, I am starting to open myself up more to that, because I've been pretentious in the past and thinking that, only this stuff is good, and they haven't made any good music since the 60s and 70s, with a few pockets here and there in several decades. But the party is over for the most part. But then you watch documentaries on these new rappers and stuff, and even though they don't impress me as a whole, there's little pieces of it that it's like, oh, you're 15 years older, or you're 15 years younger than me, yet you figured that out, and I'm still figuring that out psychologically. It's like a therapy thing. Like, we're still damaged for for whatever reason. Did you have, because you have it in your stand-up, like, and this is material you've burned by now already, but just how, like, your parents didn't judge you for going into poetry, not like outwardly, but like maybe internally or something. Did you before have a dialogue of like fighting with them in your head, or was it always a smooth relationship? Were you fighting with them about career choices and stuff?
Yeah, I think I fought with them internally and externally. Like they, but at the same time, they weren't from America, so they didn't really know all the rules and stuff.
Yeah,
and
I've got the foreign parent.
Yeah,
we both have foreign parents that escaped a country that was going. It was a good idea to get out of there at the time. Yeah, from Cuba and from Iran in the 70s, and also both of them never went back. So they've both came here and spent more time here than they spent.
That's wild, isn't it?
Back there, yeah. Like I think on your second Marin episode, like you seeing your aunt who hadn't seen your dad since the 70s and then saw you, and you're like, you look just like your dad at that point. So it's like the next time she sees him is through his son who looks just like him. Yeah. So it's a lot of, I thought that was a cool little...
Yeah, it was wild. She was like, "Oh my god!" She look at me like I was a ghost or something, or some sort of spirit. She's like, she would stop and be like, "Oh my, I'm sorry, you're just him," or something. But then in her, like, she would have mannerisms of the way she told a story and would like touch my leg for effect or like slow down. I was like, that's exactly how my dad tells a story. It was crazy.
Yeah, we've all got our little bag of tricks, don't we?
Yeah.
Like where we can't see it because we're embedded within it, but aliens in 100 years can just see like, oh, he took that pause from the way this person talks. He took that from his father, took that from like... I don't know if you know Jaco Pastorius, the bass player. Yeah, the documentary that Rob Trujillo made. It's on Netflix.
I've seen it.
Yeah, I love it. I've watched it like 3 or 4 times. Awesome. I love at that end, like when they're focusing on that big mural of him, and it's got his voice in the background saying like, "I know where I stole every note, man. Not a lick of it's original. I'm just trying to spread it around a little bit more. Like put some of it here, put some of it here." I'm like, damn it, you're right. Like it's the birds singing. It's even the jackhammer sound. If you find where that magic is, it's always happening in the moment, and he's just trying to spread it. And originality can be a trap, like trying to think that something is yours and you're perfect and original. It's
like you're quoting Kanye here.
I hope I'm famous one day and have a mental breakdown and have a comeback and have something like that. Do you thirst for fame less and less every year, or more and more every year, or equal?
I think less and less. I just want to be able to have a nice life and have my friends around, and every once in a while go on a trip and not sleep on the floor, and maybe eat some salmon from time to time or something.
So like $110,000 a year, basically.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? Like it can boil down to a number. We don't know what it is yet. I'm still working on that too. I would love to. I haven't taken a real trip that wasn't a wedding or a funeral in quite some time, other than Joshua Tree or places that are driving and get an Airbnb, like a mini trip. But ever since I went full into the arts, into the comedy, and like left my comfy day job that was good, and like now I'm at that point like, oh man, I missed that.
Come on, that's a trap.
Missed that. Yeah, it is, because I know that at the end of that day job I couldn't keep doing the actions to the point where I was almost fired, and I was like, okay, even the threat of almost getting fired didn't scare me. I just can't bring myself to move the mouse to here, to do that thing, to do the something in you breaks, like in have you seen the Gary Shandling documentary?
Oh
yeah, where he was in engineering and he left the engineering lab and he couldn't walk back in. He just walked away forever. And same with his show, and just there's periods in his life where he'd walk away from it forever. And it's cool seeing a documentary of someone who's dead and building a narrative around, like, they were this character. This was the pattern that defined their cornerstone.
But they had the actual notes to, like, support it. And, like, the thread of the narrative was his actual moleskin, basically.
Oh, yeah.
I got to tell you something. Speaking of leaving your day job, I think you're one of those people, along with Singer, but right now we're talking about you, that you have taken full advantage of not having a day job. Like, you are endlessly creative. You're always putting shit out. You're very ambitious in the good way when it comes to, like, you are productive as hell. Look, you can't see this room, but we're sitting in a room here, and there's a ukulele, there's a Stratocaster, there's a violin, a bass guitar, a Telecaster.
Thank you. Yeah, there's more instruments than I can play in the day, and I feel bad about that.
But you animate stuff constantly. You're drawing. You're the stuff. Oh man, you've been on fire especially recently with your the Instagram like comics that you put up.
Oh, thank you.
They've just been like, oh, that one. You know, when you're like, oh yeah, I feel that one.
Hell yeah.
That one's talking. But they've been really good. But some people are like, quit their day job and they're lazy.
Yeah.
But you are not lazy. You're like a real artist. And
thank you.
think
I'm going to save, or I guess I'm saving this whole episode anyway. But I need to string together all the compliments I've ever gotten and have that as a podcast so that I don't.
Well, you should be proud of it. I just want to put on public record that.
Well, thank you, man. That means a lot to me.
Yeah, very inspired and inspiring. Yeah.
Thank you. That's all I want to do. I want to lift other people up, and I hope that I am also lifted up as I'm lifting other people up. But I'm just with, I guess, the comics, all I'm trying to do, the theme that I never set out with a theme. I'm going to do this. I'm just trying to be honest every single day. And I think that I'm just telling myself stuff and then presenting it in a way that other people also can understand. And if it resonates with them, it tends to be more popular oftentimes when it's about indecisiveness or fear of not having enough money, fear of, I think it's mainly those two.
Those are the most popular?
Yeah, I think those come up a lot. And I'm learning, I'm getting better about it, but I'm not good at developing the business end. I want to create the stuff, and when I'm done creating it, I have a lot of resistance when it comes to trying to figure out how to do ads for it. Like, I sell prints and shirts and all that stuff, and it does all right through organic reach, but to actually hit those real numbers, you have to learn the marketing aspect of it. And I'm shaking off a little bit because you just have to do that. But learning the marketing, asking to be on that festival, submitting to this thing, trying to get that gig, being too passive in that sense. So I have a lot of energy in the creative part, but then the taking care of business part, which is very real, I haven't invested enough time, which I've done all right. I mean, I'm in here, I've got my internet and I've got my stuff, so it's not complaining. Like, I have it so well compared to other people, but compared to myself and where I feel like final me should be, I'm very
but that's the easy stuff to fix. Have you got your voice down?
I love when I hear that it's easy, like I could just twist it right now. And
well, compared to, like, what if you weren't creative and you drew crap and that stuff that no one was interested in? Like, you've got your art and your comedy voice and everything, you have that down. All I have to do is, like, send emails like, hey, can I get on stage tomorrow? Can I do a show sometime? Yeah. Or I don't know how to boost
you have to
sponsored
ask.
Post, or you have to ask.
Yeah, that's what I'm learning in 2018. You have to ask for stuff, whether it's from help from therapists, help from your family, help from your partner, help from your friend. Like, I've tried to do it all myself for the past 4 years, and it's been all right. It's been quite a journey, but man, I get cooped up in here. And this podcast, actually, it started as kind of a need for that. I was getting too insulated, wasn't seeing friends enough other than at shows, but that's a different vibe. We're in our heads, we're thinking about what our set is, especially LA and New York. I don't know that much about New York. I haven't been there in a couple of years, but from what I remember, it's not like in, San Francisco or in Austin or Chicago. It's not like there's a scene and then afterwards we all go do karaoke and then we all go to the bar and we all talk about stuff. There's a scene and there's a close-knit family of people of all ages and professions just doing this comedy thing. And here we come out to be professional. So we do our set and then we bounce because we have to go finish writing that thing. We've got that deadline. I
know. I miss those days.
Yeah. But you can't go back. It's like going back to high school. High school's done.
Yeah.
And those people that you associate with those days have also moved away or died or gone on to something else.
Like finished comedy or done something else. And you're like, oh, okay, well. But it's still neat to I don't know. it's still cool to have been part of a community like that. You know, who
For
gets
sure.
to do that ever? But
Yeah,
like
and it's
the Austin
frozen in
community-
that time.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. It's like this little time capsule where you're like, oh, I remember those days, being out every night and like hanging out and going out till 4 and then going to work in the morning and then doing it
Yeah.
again. And it's like, those are the best times. Like the best comedy times are probably that ascent, or probably like the first couple years of comedy are so bad, but they're also so fun.
Yeah, you block them out, and then you remember them years after you've blocked them out because you're so bad. Like, I remember just going to take a piss and then thinking of a joke that's like, oh, this is so good. Like, I have to finish peeing so I can go write this down. And I'm like laughing as I'm writing it down. And then you go back years later looking at that. It's like, you should be put to death for thinking that that's something even remotely similar worth. You wasted the blank page. It would have been better as a blank.
Yeah, how is that anything? Yeah, and it'll make you cringe. But I don't know, those times they're formative and they're good.
Yeah, it's the lean years.
Yeah, and
And-
you learn by process of elimination and by trying stuff out. That's exciting. I used to play guitar on stage all the time, and I just do whatever. Like, go up as characters and all this stuff.
You started as a weirdo alternative performer, or you started regular stand-up, then branched out to it, and then returned?
I started kind of as a regular for a little bit, but still like alternative. I feel like I always was alternative, but at first it was funny. At first I did talk about my parents, but there was kind of alty and kind of weird, but just in my own style or whatever. And then I was like, talking about your parents and your culture, it's kind of hokey. I'm going to set that down. And then I was kind of raunchy for a second. I would talk about dirty stuff and kind of loud. And Alex Cole showed me this video of like in my first 6 months. I think I did 15 minutes at some like club. It was a small place in San Francisco called 50 Mason, which is kind of a bringer room. But I was like standing up super straight and waving my arms around like Dane Cook style, and I was so cocky. And the jokes were not good, but I was killing. Like the response was like really big, and I was like, I couldn't watch 3 seconds. I was like, no.
Oh man, I've got one of those that I haven't looked at yet, but it's on a DVD from 2009, and I know there's nothing good on there, but I haven't thrown out the DVD yet. And
You gotta watch it.
I should.
You should let your friends watch it. And then they'll be like, wow, you've come a long way,
Yeah.
But like, then I was pretty weird for a while, or just, I don't know, kind of all over the place. I played songs on guitar that I thought were funny, and then I did sketches and stuff. And I was just trying to be funny in every which way I could be funny and whatever I felt like doing. And that was fun just to kind of figure that out. And then when me and I feel like I'm talking about Alex a lot, and Alex and Sean Keen and Bucky Sinister and SF, we like started the show, The Business. We all try to do a half hour every week. Like,
Are you the only surviving founder member on it?
no, Sean Keen and Bucky Sinister still do it.
Oh, in San Francisco, but you're the only LA one.
Oh no, Sean Keen and Bucky do it in LA.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's changed a lot.
It's changed a lot.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of people, and in SF, there's been a lot of different versions of it. But it was always me, Bucky, Sean, Alex. Then there's like Caitlin Gill and Chris Thayer and Anna Saragina and Nato Green and like a bunch of David Borey was on it, and Johan Miranda, and then who else is that? We've had so many people, and then we came to LA and Beth Stelling did it, and Sean O'Connor did it, and then we've just like changed, and now it's been a lot of incarnations.
Yeah, I like
Megan
it.
Keister does it now. And,
Cool, Born Feral.
yeah, and then there was a New York version where Alex did it with Jared Logan and Kara Klink and Michelle
Spreading
Wolf.
the virus. Yeah.
So at one
Michelle
time we
Wolf's done really well. She's like popping hot right now.
Yeah, but and at one time we had it going in 3 cities, which was kind of cool. But originally it was just this experiment in a black box theater where we just tried to do as much material, and I think it wasn't vocalized, but I think we all didn't want to be the worst one. And we're all like inspired and scared to be the worst ones, because the other ones are like, I think those guys are so funny. And so we just try to like write real hard for the week and try to do new stuff and fill the time.
That's funny. I love the motivation of not being the best. Just we're more afraid of being the last one.
Yeah, I don't want to be the worst traveling Wilbury or whatever.
Who would that be? That would be Bob Dylan?
maybe
not writing wise. Writing wise, he's up there, but singing wise and playing wise.
Well, I love Bob Dylan I love him so much, but his contribution and where he was at the time in the Traveling Wilburys, he might be the worst one. Oh, Roy Orbison, but he's so good.
There's Roy Orbison, George Harrison, Tom Petty.
Tom Petty was in his prime.
Yeah. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Man, 3 of them are gone. That video is like, it has a whole new meaning to it. That end of the line video, where they're riding in the train and they're just singing, "It's all right."
I love that song.
Yeah, it's great, especially the video, and they zoom in on the photo of Roy Orbison because he's already dead at that one. And yeah, George Harrison now, he's been dead for...
You should make it. You should remake it in Photoshop.
Yeah, they're all
it's the stupidest video of all time. Unnecessarily cruel. You're like, oh look, I added George Harrison. If you look behind the train
just
conductor,
for all of them, it's just a train of just photos of dead. What's it called? Supergroup people.
And then the other one's, is it Jeff Lynne or whatever? The guy from ELO.
I think there was a different one depending on whether it was 1 or 3 because they did
there was
Traveling Wilburys
Jeff
1.
Lynne 1, Jeff Lynne 2, Jeff Lynne 3.
No, I don't think they did a 2. I think they went straight to 3 because that was novel. There's like this history of, how, I have no opinion about it. It's just kind of avant-garde art kind of thing. Like, no, instead of 2, we go to 3 because it's different. And then David Bowie had that album The Next Day where it's just the cover from Heroes but with a white square on top of his face that says The Next Day and just kind of...
Oh, I don't know that one.
Yeah, it's literally, that's the cover, and he had so much backlash to the people surrounding him, like, no, come on, anything but that is the cover, don't do that. But he's like, no, that's the cover, and it's kind of cool. No one had ever done that, and it looks lazy, but it's also showing that, no, that's gone, that's past, this is here. And now he's awesome. Completely gone, too.
You should put him, you Photoshop him on the train just for no reason. Why is David Bowie on here?
Outside the train, floating in space, because he's the spaceman. He has to always be associated with space. Did you catch Black Star and get to hear that album, that video?
Did. Not until after he had passed. I know my friend Joey was super into it, and I think when he passed away, he was like really shook.
Oh, really?
Because it was so... dark, and I guess he knew what was going on. But listening back to it, it's like, oh, it's pretty chilling, man. What a true artist to like know what was like. Okay, I'm about to die, and this is my legacy. I'm gonna put it on this album, and I'm just gonna put it all out there, and it's really beautiful.
Yeah, he did it right. Yeah. Swan song.
Yeah,
I feel like Prince did too with Art Official Age. He actually released 2 albums afterwards, but Art Official Age, he dies in the beginning of it, and he's in heaven in track 2. And there's kind of like in the Gold Experience, there's a similar like narrator, but it's a different voice. It's not like Gold Experience at all, but it's it's saying like, Mr. Nelson, can you hear my voice? We know you're a little bit groggy, but you've been in suspended animation for about 45 years, and where you are now is a place without time. That being said, you are completely safe, and we're here to help you. And then that voice keeps coming in between tracks, like... there's this one other affirmation. It's like, words such as me and mine were introduced into society as a control mechanism to divide the subject first individually and then as a collective. Any person of the opposite sex that requires your attention is now something that has veered from its path of preordained destiny of total enlightenment. And then it goes into the song, but it's like you're experiencing... The first track is basically him going through his 70s sound, his 80s sound, his 90s sound, the whole Minneapolis sound, and then it ends with, we need you to tell us what you know, we need you to tell us what you know, and these voices like kind of extracting all of his information from him, and then there's the voice of him like drowning, like in water suspended animation, like, let me grow, and then he dies, and then the next song is called Clouds, and from there on, there's affirmations about we're communicating now telepathically, which makes things move so much faster here. And it takes you through a trip to where he's like, and there's that, I don't know how many of those songs you've heard or which one you know how much I'm repeating or whether this is new information.
This is totally new to me.
Oh, you should check it out. And like, yeah, he has that song, The Breakdown, where he's like, I used to throw the party on the New Year's Eve. First one intoxicated, last one to leave. Waking up in places that you would never believe. Give me back the time you can keep the memories. So he's like regretting like his past of wanting wealth and fame and owning the biggest pool and stuff, and it's a really like cathartic album of like older Prince like having like regretting all of that cocky behavior and stuff, but still not like, I mean, he's always kind of had that though, one foot in the ethereal and one in the on earth, Darling Nikki, and also writing about Jesus and stuff. Yeah. So
that's wild. That's it's a straight up concept album. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Art Official Age.
When did it come out?
And like, you know, it's got the double entendre. 2014.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Art, or 2015? I think 14. Yeah. 14. Yeah. It's Artificial Age, as in like that with it, which is not real, and then Art Official. And
that's like a real clever kind of old guy pun to name a concept album. You know, you're like, oh, that's real wacky. I guess I see what you're doing there.
Yeah, and he wore the sunglasses with the eye in the center, and he had the backing band Third Eye Girl, which is just 3 women he found through YouTube, like found the best like female bass player from YouTube, best female guitar player from YouTube, and best female drummer from, I mean, it's subjective, but he just basically found ones he liked and it was like brought one, like I think Eden Nielsen came first, the bass player, then together they scouted the drummer, then together they scouted the third one. So it's like, okay, yeah, this person fits in our family. And then they holed up for 2 years at Paisley Park just practicing just more than 15 hours a day, and then just became a super tight band. Then he ended the career with just playing the piano. I don't know if that was a shift or whether it's because he was getting sick and just wanted to make it more bare bones, but I thought that was a good swan song. That's too
amazing.
Like ending with the Art Official Age album, and then just him, piano and a microphone, and then taping that, and then dying in, I need to triple confirm this, but I believe died in an elevator, which is like in what's it called? What's that song called? Oh yeah, Let's Go Crazy. Are we going to let the elevator break us down? He died in an elevator wearing black shirt, black pants, and black socks, all which were inside out.
Whoa.
So was that intentional? He meant to like be like he's on the outside of the body now? Like, was that intentionally? Because he does that shit. He gives those kind of things. But
I see.
He could have also just been very sick and confused and put them on backwards.
True. That's amazing. To go back to, I think that would you were talking about music age. I mean, music ages better, right? Like the closest thing we have to that in comedy is maybe Bill Hicks or something. Didn't he come out with a bunch of albums?
It's not funny though.
Yeah, and it's not that funny. And has it aged well? I'm not sure.
No.
Music is like so timeless. Yeah,
and it's novel. Like, and he's known for those breakdowns where he's just calling some lady in the front a cunt and just like, "Ma, I have a cunt instead of a cock, and now I can talk at shows." Yeah. It's like he's got a lot of anger towards women, which who knows what it was like doing comedy then, or also our whole idea towards, as men, our idea of women on the whole, like maybe not on an individual basis, has shifted a whole lot. Like you cannot be as misogynistic as you were before. There's just too much information coming at you, which not a lot of people are changing because they don't want to get caught, but I think even more people are changing because they didn't know like what it was like having an Instagram account as a woman and knowing what your inbox looks like or anything.
Yeah, it seems like people are getting,
or the harassment stuff. Like you just didn't know about it, and even a year ago, people would still be like, "What? Really? That's surprising." And now a year has gone by where a lot's happened in the last 2 years. Now we're like not surprised by when successful rich people are pieces of shit. Now it's like opposite. It's like, oh, they're not a piece of shit. That's so cool.
It's really weird. Like, I had a friend in college who worked at the School of Journalism when I went to college, and she, one day she was like, "Hey, Bill Cosby came in." This is like the early aughts, And she's like, "Bill Cosby came in, and he like rubbed my shoulders and called me his little China doll." And we're like, "Well, isn't that a kick in the pants?" And we're like, "Oh, crazy! That's wacky," And we're just like, for some reason, no one made a big deal out of it. We weren't alarmed. She was like, we I guess we didn't realize what she was feeling. We just thought it was kind of a funny, random, weird thing that happened. And I was like, oh man, if this was exposed, I mean, this could have been exposed long ago. If he did this on a one-day trip to Berkeley, meeting a secretary at the School of Journalism, and was just like, did that to her. This guy's been doing it all over the place all the time. Mm-hmm. But before, I guess one of the few nice things about the internet is that it's helped expose these people like all the time. Like if the internet was around, I don't know if it was because of the internet, but
Hannibal relit the flame. He didn't mean to because someone had a phone in his show and uploaded the clip on YouTube. But I think Cosby had charges against him in the 90s, and then pre-internet, or at least at 28.8K internet, you could have hid that shit. But with current...
But it wasn't making the rounds. Like, we didn't have the thing to let us all know it was going around.
There wasn't a round.
Yeah, so if she would have like, hey, Cosby did something creepy to me today, and posted it, and it was like, oh, Cosby did something creepy to me. I don't know why I'm using that voice, but like, Cosby did something creepy to me, and Cosby did something, it's like, oh, whoosh, and all of a sudden there's like a firestorm, and that's, I think that's kind of that's the awesome thing about the Me Too movement or whatever. It's just like, it just happened in the last, almost like, feels like a year or two. And like it's changing, it's causing
like
a positive cultural shift.
Natasha Leggero's joke of like, how did we get all the power all of a sudden? Like we're not ready, or not, she doesn't say we're not ready for it, but we weren't expecting to get it just overnight. Which they don't have all the power, but they do have a new.
There's a voice.
Yeah, there's a new power, which because social media gets grouped in with the internet, like it's a thing on the internet, but I don't see social media as the internet. I see it as the next layer on top. Like, so you've got radio, then TV comes on top of that, then internet comes on top of that, and social media is on top of that. Like, internet is now secondary. Like, you go to websites through Facebook, through Twitter, because you saw a link. Very few people are... I mean, we have our homepages and stuff set, but it's not like you're going to Yahoo News or your news feed. Yeah, we go to we look at our friends because we want to see their little faces and see if there's a little red circle with a number in it indicating that someone wants to contact us. There's even a little heart that shows up when you're getting hearts. It floats up and happy faces. It's Black Mirror, but we're just not aware of how strange it is because we're in it. But if you showed this to someone in the 90s, it'd be more horrifying than any Stanley Kubrick sort of future.
Like, what the hell is this? And everyone just feeds into it. And everyone just like is blind to it and just goes along with it. And they're like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's over. It's a wrap. It won. There's no like people that are like, no, I'm just deleting my Facebook. It's over. You're not.
Man, I hope we get bored of it. That's what I've been thinking about are young people going to become bored of the internet and apps and then move on? Or are we all going to get bored of it and just live without it? But I don't know. I was talking to Johnny Pemberton yesterday.
Does that happen without a new, not talking to Johnny Pemberton, but the like getting bored of it? I think we get bored of it when something newer and shinier comes out. Like kids might get bored of radio because TV was there, and then kids get bored of TV because they get YouTube. Like kids don't want to be a TV star anymore. They want to be a YouTube star. Yeah. And YouTube star will then become antiquated and being a VR star or some sort of thing. I don't know what the next thing is, but there is more stuff coming. I know that for sure. Gosh. But go back to it. You were talking to Pemberton.
Oh, we talked about the band's Descendants yesterday. For a second, we talked about it, right? We were just talking about them. No more than 10 seconds. I get home and I go on Instagram and I look up, and one of the sponsored things is like, buy a Descendants t-shirt, and I was like, what?
Oh, it's listening to you.
That's so and I was like, fuck this.
It's listening to your phone. It's taking it in passively and converting it to text and then feeding that into an algorithm. You think that's it?
Yeah, that's it, and that's fucked up.
I think it is for sure, and we're getting these emails from Facebook like, we care about your data, and I get emails from Wells Fargo like, we care about your accounts, and there's a class action lawsuit against both of them, and they're doing that. They're playing a numbers game, which I get it. You're a business, but it's like in Ed Norton and Fight Club, when he was an insurance adjuster and he has to weigh, like, is it cost more to let all these people die, or does it cost more to change all the tires on this thing? You do that math, and if it's cheaper to let these people die and pay the lawsuit, they'll go the not valuing human life one. It's whatever's cheaper. If saving human life is cheaper, they'll do that. So we do have to see these entities as businesses and play with play with that. I think that's why there's not going to be nuclear war, because it busts up assets. There's not a lot of money to be made in it.
Yeah, you lose too much money in nuclear war.
Yeah, there's
you have
war.
to fix it.
Yeah, but nuclear war, where everything is decimated.
Wiped out.
Yeah.
You have to rebuild infrastructure and all that stuff. You're right. I never thought about it.
That's not profitable.
Yeah.
But it's profitable to make news articles about nuclear war, because you can show the picture of the mushroom cloud, and then underneath that is an ad for Amazon Prime, which there was, I talked about this on a previous podcast, but on this podcast I repeat the fuck out of myself, but so does everyone. So does every podcast. But have you heard of how it's the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse: Amazon, Google, Facebook, and Apple? And you can't become a company of that size. There's never been companies of this size ever. And you can't become that big without knowing which organ you're targeting. And each one is targeting a very specific organ. Google is targeting the brain because it's like our God. It's our wanting to know this knowledge. Like, searching that. Facebook is tapping into the heart. It's our friends and people close to us. And it's even got the little heart
nostalgia
thing.
Friends from high school, your whole life. It's your wonder years. Amazon
is the gut, which you want stuff like to come in because there's a penalty for not having enough stuff. Scarcity is punished. And then having a lot, there's no penalty for having too much. So more, take it in. And then Apple is the gonads, because it's not better than PCs. It's a status symbol, having the Apple Watch, having the white headphones. It's sleek, clean, like you're progressive. I've got an Apple. I've got a PC too, but it's...
Oh, you got both?
Oh yeah, I got 3 of them. I'm trying to do the Cuban accent. I thought that was interesting.
That's
it is
wild.
just a story too. Like, who knows?
Sure.
They're just trying to be what they are. Like, they're not specifically like, today we will target their gut because we're evil.
Yeah,
I think Jeff Bezos is probably a better dude than I am. He drove around his old beat up Honda like when he had $1 billion, because he just cared about the business.
Really? He's like, I don't need a company car.
Yeah, you can look it up. You can look in like YouTube, like they're interviewing him, like, what's with the car? He's like, it's a perfectly good car. It's my car when I started this company, and like, I just see it as a thing to get from point A to point B, and no, I don't need a Lamborghini, even though I could buy 100,000 Lamborghinis.
Yeah. That's wild.
Which, who knows if that's just a PR thing.
It's
like, can we
PR.
get a shot of me in the Honda before I get in my real car?
Yeah. He drives it right onto his private jet. He's like, yeah.
Do you care about cars?
I just bought one yesterday.
Oh, awesome.
And I never cared about cars.
Me neither.
I've been driving the same old car, and it's like falling apart. It's almost dead. And I was like, I'm going to buy a car. So I got a new car.
Right on.
Yeah,
that's like the least deep thing we've talked about this whole thing. It's like, do you like cars? You like cars? I have 1,000 cars.
I bought one yesterday. I thought about it a lot.
Cars. So on this podcast, if you're not familiar, we do 10 seconds of silence, which it's not a meditation or anything. I just like having 10 seconds of experienced silence as a refresher and reflection and representative of death and how we're here for a bit and then we're not here and then we're back. We reemerge somewhere. Who's to say what that place is? But we'll get into that after the silence, which you don't have to think about it during the silence. But we'll start now. Oh, yeah. That was good stuff, huh?
Yeah.
So, do you think about what happens after you die much?
Not really.
Does it, would you identify as, what's it called? Not agnostic, not, it's the thing Anthony Jeselnik once said. It's like...
A bitch. I was kidding.
A bitch. No, that's Neil Hamburger. What is Jeselnik? I was at my girlfriend's house the other night, making myself a sandwich, and then I realized I left the girlfriend meat in the fridge.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's not clever enough. It's got to like loop back somewhere.
Yeah.
His my favorite joke of his, which I even told my mom, and my mom doesn't even like dark like stuff like that, and even I got a laugh out of her. That was one of my first jokes of his. I thought was really good. It's like. Growing up, more than anything in the world, I wanted a motorcycle, but my mom wouldn't let me have one. You see, her brother was killed in a motorcycle accident when he was my age, and I could just have his motorcycle.
Oh, that's hilarious. That guy is so good. I think he's so funny. I remember when he came through the Punchline for the first time, like years and years ago. I showed up on a Thursday, I had no idea who he was, and I was like, what? He kind of does these they're kind of like one-liners or whatever.
They are, yeah.
And halfway through, I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to predict the punchline. Couldn't do it. I just, like, it's always like, he veers so hard, and you can't do it. And a bunch of us just went, I was probably the last person I went to go see every night and every show. I just stood there and I was like, what? What's going on
he
here?
cares. Like,
yeah, he's an amazing
He
comic.
said in an interview one time, like, the only thing I could think of that would be sadder than failing at this and not being a successful comic would be if I quit and stopped doing it. And I was like, oh yeah, he's right. Like, and he's also not right, because there's plenty of people that have left, and it all depends on your personal makeup. Like, I'm sure Steve Martin would say otherwise. He's probably much happier playing banjo and not being the most important person in the world, but he was miserable when he was on that arena stage and with the rubber chickens and the arrow through his head. He got tired of it.
Yeah.
He mentioned it being something he tapped into. Like, you could only be that silly during the 70s. During that time, he was tapping into that energy.
Right place, right time, right thing.
Like, if you tried to do that now, something similar to it, it'd be, what are you doing? Why are you being this way?
It's kind of the same times, though. Like, he did it.
Oh, maybe now, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, 2015, you couldn't. Now you could.
Yeah, because everyone's so serious and everyone's talking about issues and stuff, and he's like, "Hey, I'm just wearing a white suit and saying some weird stuff."
I think it's on the backswing now, because, I mean, I don't know. I can't predict the market, but it feels like it peaked in 2016, 2017, and it's like we can't yell at each other more. We can only yell at each other the exact same amount or less, but the yelling at each other is too...
Yeah, I think it's kind of stagnant. I mean, some people are really wonderful and amazing at articulating themselves and their point of view, but comedy and good times in comedy is all about the new take and like a solid, just an interesting take. And people everyone has the same take on Trump. Everyone has the same take on the internet being bad.
Trump, we should build a wall around you. Trump, we should build a wall around you. Trump, we should build a wall around you. Trump, we should build a wall. And we're
all addicted to social media. Social media sucks. Social media. It's like it's all the same, you know.
That's why Gary V is refreshing. You know, Gary V, the guy who's he's a immigrant from the Soviet Union, and he's always been a businessman. Like, had a lemonade stand when he was a kid, like sold baseball cards, made $3,000 in a weekend, but was failing all his school classes, and then went into his family liquor store and just was in the back room for a decade, and then heard of the internet coming out and was like, oh shit, I could sell shit on this thing. Like, so he's one of the first people that saw the e-commerce potential of the internet and started the wine store Wine Library and grew that, and then started a YouTube show about the wine thing. And he describes it as like he wanted to just sell wine on the internet, but when the red light came on, like something in him clicked, like, this is going to live forever. Like, people are going to see this. My grandkids are going to watch this shit. I can't lie. So he would say that different wines, like depending on how it actually tastes, he'd be like, I sell this and it sucks. Don't drink this. He'd be like super honest about it. And then that got him on Conan. He was one of the first YouTube stars back before YouTube stars were millennials. He was like a OG YouTube star. And then invested in Twitter and stuff like that and made money, but then left the whole tech world to build a digital agency because still companies are airing 30-second commercials, which we don't pay attention to 30-second commercials. We don't listen to the pre-roll as we hate all that shit. And then now it's doing that quick marketing. It's like the pioneer of, I don't know, maybe those Sour Patch Kid ads that are just like a 5-second loop. Like, no, people don't want that anymore. But I brought him up because his whole rap is like, no, kids today are not stupid. They're not buried in their phone all day. They're tapping into this new world, which you're not aware of because you're old. There's this girl that makes slime, makes $1 million a year making YouTube slime videos. There's a kid that cuts things in half with his dad. It's called what's it called? Cut in Half on YouTube. It's like, oh, what does a kettlebell look like cut in half? Oh, cool. It's a bowling ball cut in half.
That's it?
Yeah, that's the whole show, and million subscribers.
Is that a new thing, or has it been around for a while?
It's been around for a while. Like, the the concept of someone making millions of dollars talking about video games is no longer even novel. It's like, oh yeah, that's a 2014 thing.
Yeah.
Like a 28 thing. I don't even know what's the cutting edge of 2018.
No idea.
What is it? It's got to be just some 13-year-old girl screaming for an hour, and that's like what they like.
I really miss the early innocent Wild West days of the internet. Like I remember using Tumblr early or Vimeo early, and just making sweet Fisher, and Mike just would make these.
Shout out Mike Fisher if you still listen. He does listen sometimes.
Mike listens. Shout out to Mike Fisher.
We love you, Mike.
Love you, Michael. And he would just make these beautiful little hilarious videos for nobody, just for us and the little Vimeo community, which was I
didn't know that.
Oh,
Is it still up?
Yeah, it's totally.
I gotta check it out. He's a very creative man that's not in a creative profession, in that he teaches, he works at a school, but his creative, he keeps a Moon Rocks journal, he's always writing.
His profession, he works with kids with autism, and the things he does, the games he creates with them, and the way he makes them learn and helps them learn is so creative.
Oh, I used the wrong word. Show business.
Artistic.
He's not he's not in show business. There we go.
Yeah.
Yes, creativity and show business have nothing to do with each other. They're very, very distant cousins, not related by blood.
But he is he's just a creative person, and he's constantly making stuff. But those early days, he just make these little vignettes, just a stupid little video of it would be a baseball card of Shredder from the Ninja Turtles, and he put it through a paper shredder, and it'd be a funny song in the background. It was just so innocent and stupid, but they were so funny. And then there weren't that many people using Vimeo at the time. There was this funny guy from Minneapolis named Scruffy Guy, and he was just kooky guy on a webcam. He goes, hello Vimians, I'm Scruffy Guy, and he just make these funny videos on his rollerblades and stuff. And it wasn't really for likes. Who knew who was watching?
It's for your friends. It's for your little community of it's okay to waste 2 days to make your friend laugh for 2 minutes or 30 seconds. Just
totally
getting into that.
And that was I look back. Well, I wasn't doing any comedy or anything. Maybe I wasn't. Maybe I was at that time. But it just seems like everything we do now is it's a public comedy thing.
Yeah, because business found out about it, and I'm not anti anything because I don't know enough of the whole picture to be down with the corporations, down with the blah blah. But it's just kind of the way things go. It's people flock to one area because the serious suit people aren't there anymore. The serious suit people see that this is a growing community and is coming to be a real thing. A few people dip their feet in, and then before you know it, you're just looking at Capital One ads all day. There was not a Capital One ad on the... I doubt Capital One had a website in the early 2000s. They're why do we need a website? Oh, yeah. And now it's gone the other way. Social media has gotten so big that it's why do we need a website? Everyone's on social media.
Now Capital One's funny on Twitter. They respond to things with hilarious memes.
I hate that. And it's just someone our age that has a job as their social media coordinator person, which I would take that job, whatever. Yeah. And yeah, they all have witty voices. Everything trying to sell something to you is a little snarky and a little progressive, and it's oh, you're stupid idiot.
And people are oh man, Arby's is hilarious, and then it's Arby's is funny on Twitter, and you're oh man, that's great. And you're ugh.
And then they make one misstep, like Wendy's did. I forget what they did. They did blackface or something. Probably not blackface, but something that's a step.
Freckle face.
Something like that. Really. Wendy was they wanted to use a photo of Wendy, the actual girl, but she wasn't pretty enough or cutesy enough, so then they did an illustration. And then after Dave Thomas died, they had the actual Wendy come be the spokesperson on TV, but that didn't last long. They replaced her with that young redhead actress person that plays Wendy, but it's geez. And she's not ugly, it's just, it's a normal looking person, but by standard days of before, it's you had to be really, and I guess you do if you have to sell. I don't know what it's like to sell fast food at a global scale, or even anything at a global scale.
It's interesting how many redheads run the hamburger game. There's Wendy's redhead, Ronald McDonald's redhead,
Burger King? Kinda. He's brown. He's strawberry blonde redhead.
A little strawberry blonde. Who Who else is there?
Remember how much people loved that? The Creepy King, like that was just everyone's favorite. Yeah. It was so easy, and it's probably still easy now, and we just can't see it.
Oh yeah, we can't see it.
Yeah.
Jack in the Box used to be redheaded.
Yeah, I don't think he has hair.
Bald. Yeah, he's
was he? Bald. Is there?
No. Just being dumb.
What was he really? Was he historically really redhead?
Yeah,
I think the dude that writes those ads is the guy that's the voice too.
Oh, really?
Or not? Like he owns the agency and everything.
Man, you know so much about these business mogul people.
Yeah, because I'm my own business, so I'm trying to learn from actual business people, like the correct path. Yeah. Like how do you become? Because there's this association, especially in young people and smart people, that it's all stupid. There's no point. Money is evil. It's all this, and it's very self-destructive. And you can live in that world for a little bit, but eventually you have to pay off your debts. You do need health insurance, or you need to go get medical stuff done to you, not necessarily be insured all the time, but shit happens, and eventually you do need money, or you have a kid or something. Just you have to live in this world, and finance can be evil, but it can also be good. There's plenty of people that have made lots of money doing good, so I'm trying to figure that out, which also can be my world, because I'm not going to go work at a soup kitchen or start an enviro thing, because I'm not in that world. I don't think about it. I don't know what the answer is. But yeah, I want to be better at like, for something as simple as, let's say, those enamel pins that I sell. I didn't know enamel pins were a thing, and then I saw at Meltdown, the late great Meltdown Comics, which is now dead in the dirt, or it'll revive in some other form. I think the dudes are doing something, but not comic book store. But there was a stand there that sold enamel pins, and then a friend of mine was like, oh yeah, my friend's company owns that, and they sell, so like $21,000 a month in enamel pin sales. And I'm like, what, really? Like, and I didn't see myself as getting that big with it, but I was like, I could try that. I could sell. I like those things. Those are cool. And then I saw that people like it and bought it, but it would have never occurred to me had I not seen another business with that, or with selling prints. It never occurred to me I could sell prints until people were like, hey, do you sell prints of this? Do you sell posters? Do you sell shirts? So I'm listening to the market or people that like what I do. Like, do you sell blank? No, but I could, and I'm not above it. I'm not above selling you a thing if you ask for it. And
I think you're doing a great job.
Oh, thank you.
I'm buying it.
Oh, nice. So, do you have a set like thing, like, because you're like me, I feel like you're in a lot of different directions, not in a bad way, but like you play guitar, you do characters, you host Underbelly, which I've mentioned on here a few times before, which is a show which stand-up comics come and do anything but stand-up comedy, but you're also a comic in just the old school regular style. You don't need a gimmick. Like, you most often go up there with nothing. You're just you. Yeah. And do you have like a path, like, because I know you auditioned for SNL about like 2 years ago, I think, and is there like, oh, that'd be so great if I could get SNL, or if I could have my own show? Do you have a thing that you want that you're inching towards, or you're just happy to be doing it?
You know, I used to think there was a path and be like, I need this, and I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that. But then I just realized there's no real path. I mean, you could gun for stuff and be like, I'm going to get this year, I'm going to have a late night set or something, you know? But I think, and it's good to know what you want, but it's just not always, I don't think it's a linear path.
That's very wise.
Yeah.
And you feel that, or that's the answer you're giving? Because I give that answer, but most often I don't feel it.
No, it's true. Like, when the SNL thing came out of the blue, like randomly someone was like, well, you make a video of characters for SNL, and I almost didn't do it because I think I was going to go on vacation or something. I was like, this is dumb. And I was like, fine, I'm just going to throw the kitchen sink at this. I did it on my phone, and I'm just going to do something fun for 5 minutes, and that's it, you know? And then I just sent it and never thought about it again, just like as a goof. And then a couple weeks later, they're like, will you do a showcase? And I did the showcase.
That's so awesome. And from the phone.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm not even going to think about this showcase. It was at UCB, and all these improv, like, kind of nerds were like doing jumping jacks and push-ups and like vocal warm-ups. And I'm like, Lord, hire me. I want to be famous and do theater. Yeah. And I was like, I'm gonna have a beer and just sit here and like I don't
real
care.
ass comic. Yeah. See, we're not theater people.
Yeah.
Which some people have crossed over, but in general, comics don't make good actors because comics are so much themselves, like they're an amplified version of themselves, which is what makes them cool and why people like comics, but then they're bad actors because that's tough to stop the you from coming through, and which is why, you know, a lot of actors, not some of them are interesting, but some of our favorite actors, you hear them on interviews. I don't want to talk shit too much on this, even though I do a lot talk shit, but you're like, that person has nothing interesting to say. What a bore. Like,
you're
not just
being
even
yourself
compared to your
again.
character. Yeah, you just suck.
Yeah. But yeah, no clear path. Oh yeah, but so I did the audition and I was like, this is gonna be dumb. Whatever, I'll just have fun. Then they're like, Lauren would like to meet you or have you audition. They just flew me out and I was like, I have no chance.
Yeah, and you saw the statue of Tito Marti. Tito Mati.
Yeah, Jose Mati.
Jose Mati. Why do I call him Tito Mati? That's like his cousin or his brother, his less successful
Tito.
brother that doesn't have a...
He's like the Tito in the Marti family, but of the Jackson family.
That's so funny. Yeah, you saw his statue and it was like an omen of the you're
American
in the right place.
dream and all this stuff. But I didn't get it. But that led to other things. And I never, like when I was a kid in high school, I feel like a lot of funny kids are like, I'm going to be on SNL one day. But I pretty much dropped it there and never thought about it again. And then I got to go out for it, which I wasn't expecting. And I didn't get, but it led to other things. Like it generated a little bit of interest in me, which I've never had in like the first 10 or 12 years of stand-up. And that led to other opportunities.
Hell yeah.
They're good. So like,
how long did it take for the punchline to accept you? Because I know that's a particularly difficult club. They make the comics wait in the back for a whole year without any indication as to whether they'll go up on the showcase, and you just have to show up. Don't talk to anyone. Don't look at like Mary in the eye or whoever runs it now.
Yeah.
And then eventually you'll be called up, and then we'll see from there. And to headline it, I think that's like a huge milestone as a Bay Area comic to do it. So when did they accept you?
I think I did the whole thing where I showed up and stayed in the back and just sat there for a year like everybody else, and then went up on the showcase once, and then you start going up every couple months, maybe 6 months, and then it gets shorter and shorter. But it was probably like 3 or 4 years where I was like just a regular, and then eventually closing out the Sunday showcase, and that was really good. Like when you start closing out the showcase, I think I was probably like 6 years in. And I was like, oh, nice. Or when you like,
I feel
you
like
start
6 is when you
work.
first start to figure it out.
Yeah.
Like the stand-up thing. You figure out what to do with some people never do. Some people find it quicker. Some people start off as like Paul Varghese. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah, really funny.
He started off like him. If you look at his first set, he's just like he is now. He was just always
exactly
that. He's got
same.
that deep voice, got the cadence and everything now. And, but yeah, I feel like 6 years is when, or
you start kind of figuring it out, and at least some inkling of your future voice, or you know how to do it a little bit. By then. You kind of know how to do it.
So they started headlining you at 6 years?
No, not headlining. Just going up last on the local showcase on Sunday. Maybe 7 years. But then I started getting work within the first 3 or 4 years. Like I opened for, it was a co-headlining week with like Big J Okerson and Kurt Metzger. Like they were so early that they weren't headlining by themselves yet. They were like going together. And it was exciting because they were just starting to headline and I was just an opener or whatever. And that was cool. And then eventually then you start opening. I was like, oh, I'm opening for Burr now. Like you start getting the better spots and it just feels good. Yeah.
I got shunned by Burr a while back by I don't know if I ever told you this story, or if I don't think I ever said it on this podcast, but it was in Montreal 2011, and he was like sitting, I was really into his podcast at the time, and he was sitting with Jeff Ross and Neil Brennan and I think Greg Fitzsimmons, I forget, but it was like these titans of comedy, and I'm just wine drunk, like kind of in one of those pockets of like no one I knew was around. I'm just wandering around, and I loved Bill Burke podcasts, and I'm just I'm not trying to say anything or do anything, but I'm trying to stand just far away so that I can like listen to this conversation. Like these are 4 people without talking to a fan. I'm trying to be a fly on the wall, but I'm wine drunk and thinking that like I'm not very obvious. I must have been standing way too close. He's like, what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing just standing there? Is everybody your generation this awkward? And I just tried to say, I'm sorry. I'm just a big fan of your podcast. Like, well, thank you. All right. And then like giving his hand motion. And then I did this, pretended to jetpack away. He's like, did you just jetpack away?
That was such a stupid thing to do.
Yeah, I felt so silly, but looking back on it, I'm like, I was awkward. I was out of place, and I deserved every bit of that.
That's so funny.
Thing. Yeah, that'd be great to have him one day as a guest. I don't think it'll happen. I think I'd have to be some kind of major thing. I'm all right. I don't know what size I'll be. I want to be big. Like you remember Patrice O'Neill and then talking about like I'd be so much happier if I was bigger. I'd be happier if more people knew who I was. And I think
that's necessarily
to a certain point though, like when they say like money doesn't solve happiness, like they found that people that make over $75,000 a year have no more happiness than people that make $6 million a year. Great. How do we all get to that $75,000 a year point? Because if you're below that, it's not as fun always thinking about how you're going to pay rent and like how to save up. And it's easy to, okay, I've got enough for rent this month and groceries and this little thing. But then things happen. Your tire breaks, your alternator breaks, your just the various garbage of life that piles on.
I thought you were going to say they've discovered that people that make $75,000 a year and the people that make $6 million a year, the same level of happiness, have to figure out how to make $7 million.
Oh, yeah.
Get super rich.
Yeah, unless you can eat infant blood like billionaires, you'll never know true happiness or whatever demonic stuff
probably something like that.
They do on that. Oh, but so when I asked you if you think about what happens after you die, did your family come from any religious sort of thing, or was just never discussed?
No, my parents are. My family's religious.
Did you shy away from it?
Yeah, like I just didn't. My sister is really into church. She's a great person, and she's also very religious and stuff. And my mom has gotten more religious as she's gotten older, but I've just never gotten into it. But it was just born into my sister. My sister just was like Christian from the beginning.
Felt Christ.
I
never felt Christ. I think he was a great guy, but I've never felt him.
Yeah, she felt him. She still feels him like on a major level. And she's like a very smart, intelligent, good person. And I like respect it, you know? And yeah, but it hasn't been my thing. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
And so you don't think one way or another it's like it's just nothingness, or it's like you wake up from a dream, or it's like I did that whole illustration book about it. Are you familiar with?
I haven't.
Are you familiar with my work?
I'm very familiar with the work, and I know, but I haven't seen the book.
Oh, right on. I've got it right. Let's see. I've got one right here. So I go through all the models of afterlife where I say it's like either oblivion or heaven or hell or purgatory, or you reincarnate. It's a whole new thing here on earth. You become a ghost, or you resonate the last thing you ever felt, or you wake up, it was all a dream. I die in dreams all the time. And
you do?
Yeah, so like I drive off the highway. That's a very common one.
Man.
Or like I just get old and my teeth fall out, or I guess my mind is there and it might be a subconscious thing of it. But in this, I go through the different models of it, and all in the end it's all true. I can give you one of these if you want them, if you're interested. And where was I going with the point of that? But I remember I was going to ask you, does it give you and we're about to wrap up in just a second too, does it give you comfort to think of oblivion, or that there is something after, or just completely neutral? I feel like you've given me the completely neutral answer, and I'm just digging.
Tell. I don't know.
You don't know?
I kind of feel like it's just over forever, you know, but I'm not totally certain.
Yeah, you can't be.
Yeah.
I mean, I can say a whole rap, but you can never be certain.
I don't know if I'm scared to be certain, you know? I'd be like, I don't know, but I just don't know.
The system is too large to be certain.
I saw my dad's dead face, you know? and he was so skinny that it looked like a skull, and just like skin over a skull. And I saw him not breathing. Still, like I've said, that it kind of haunts me to look at it. But he was dead.
But you saw his body not breathing.
I saw his body. But then I feel him. I can feel him, and I feel like he's around. And I'd like to imagine that he, after 10 years of losing himself, that he got to revert to being himself, just his regular old self, and that's how he gets to live forever. Whether he lives in a spiritual realm, or if he comes back as a leaf, or as a dog, or a bucket, or whatever.
Or two at the same time. Yeah. What if it's possible to be a bucket and a chair at the same time?
Yeah, what a life.
Have you seen, we were talking about the Traveling Wilburys earlier, and George Harrison in that Martin Scorsese doc. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah, at the very end of it, where his wife is saying that when he died, like, let's just say you wouldn't need a light. Like seriously, he lit up the room. Like he burst out in a thing of light, and whatever, you could boil that down to some psychological hallucination phenomenon, or he literally left his body and became light. And in the beginning of the documentary, his son Danny is saying that he sees him in a dream, and he asks him, "Where have you been?" And George Harrison answers, "Here this whole time." And he's like, I don't know what to do with that, but that's what he told me. And it was clearly him.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I definitely have. You come to certain conclusions if you think about this stuff a lot in life. One conclusion I've come to is that awareness cannot be aware of not being an awareness. So you can't be aware of any gap in time that you don't exist. Yet I didn't exist for infinity years, and then I was called into existence, and I'm sitting here right now talking, and this waveform will live on for however longer after I die, and is like an expression of that. And
your expression of when you were alive, or pre-alive, or you were always on a wavelength?
It's of what I am right now. Like, I'm a vibration right now in this body. There's no such thing as a particle. Like, a particle is a construct. If you look down far enough, we can't find anything. Like, nothing touches. You know how like atoms don't actually touch each other. It's like 99.9999% space, and there's a little electromagnetic field around them, and that field is out of phase with the other particles. So no particle ever actually touches another one. And if you try to look at that little particle, you can't really find anything there. All that is just a little more intense charge than where it is around that space. So we can't find a stubborn billiard ball of matter anywhere. It's all vibration. And they're coming to that conclusion in biology too, where we're not our cells. Like, our cells have these things called self-receptors, which pick up a field of information. So you're literally outside of your body. You're a field of information being picked up, playing through this body. The body dies, but the field of information is eternal. And so you're just making your soul grow with each incarnation. So that's what I tell myself to feel comfortable. But I don't know. I could have Richard Dawkins and Ricky Gervais on here and see how I'd fare against that. But also, I was atheist for a while, and I see that as a place on the road where you're just saying, like, no, it's bullshit. It's all nothing. It's like, but then you look around and you see the beauty and synchronicity and fine tuning that the whole cosmos and our human bodies are, with our cells dividing at every second, like all these in sync billions of chemical reactions that have to go just right, like clockwork. And yet we're just looking at it like, no, it's all bullshit. Yeah. Like, who is the being behind this that is telling this being to make my hand into a fist, and then it happens? Like, that's miraculous. We're that little witness and choice maker behind it all.
It's amazing. That's why I can't close it out. That's why I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have conclusions, but I love to think about it. So, we got to wrap up here. Do you have anywhere people, like the thing everyone has to ask at the end of the podcast, where can people find you? Where can people type in Chris Garcia on the internet and find out more information about this lovely man?
HariKondobalu.com. HariKondobalu.net.
Can I just have to say one thought of I haven't delved in all to the controversy yet, but just the way that I think The Simpsons replied back to Problem with Apu. I haven't watched the episode yet, but with Lisa kind of looking into the camera and saying something snarky, and they're like, oh, can't believe Lisa Simpson is saying this, but I'm thinking, because I'm such a child of the internet, I'm like, guys, if you Google image search Simpsons, you can see every Simpson character having sex with every other Simpson character. It's game over. There's no more, the character is saying the bad thing. Nope, the character has been bastardized in every single angle and every way. But also, sensitivity and all that stuff. But why would you say Hari Kondabolu is the thing?
It's
just
a funny thing that popped in my head. I was like, who else's website can I direct him to? I could just say Hari.
There's this guy, Dan Ninen, who would buy people's websites that wasn't his and like squat on
them? Yeah. That's so dirty.
But I think he's a sociopath though. Like,
is that the millennial guy?
But he's not a millennial. He's like 40-something or 50-something. But I don't know. I think the Cumtown boys have delved into that enough. I think you can search on that. I just gave Cumtown a nice little plug there. Check out Cumtown, everyone. It can be very funny.
Yeah, I've only heard it once and I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
But I guess the best place, Twitter _Chris Garcia.
Cool. That's still your number one?
Pains me to say it.
Twitter is?
No, but it's a place where I'll post shows and whatever. But I'm on Instagram at Rad Tuna, but I just post like regular life things.
That's right, Rad Tuna. I always forget people's, and I also remember, like I mentioned, Born Feral earlier, so I remembered that one.
Yeah.
But people's screen names. But and your album it's on Spotify or anything?
Yeah, Spotify. Yeah. It's laughing and crying at the same time.
Yeah, check out the album, everyone, and check out if you want to go back in time a little bit, the Mark Maron episode with Chris is really good. The This American Life with Chris is good. And check out Underbelly on May 4th. Will you be there for that one?
I won't.
Damn it. All right, come check out Ryan Singer,
anyway.
and I think he'll be there. And thanks for being my guest. I had a really great time.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I hope you had a good time too. And good night, everyone.